Mr. Chairman, thank you. Thank you to the ranking member for having this hearing. Thank you to our panelists for joining us. Ms. Brill, thanks for the time you spent with me and my staff yesterday. I'll start with you, Chairman Ollenhausen. Hello, nice to see you again. With the recently adopted California Privacy Act, Consumer Privacy Act, which was slated to take effect, is slated to take effect this next year, I assume we would agree that it's going to influence what other states will do. And there is concern expressed by some, many, about the patchwork of standards across 50 or more states. However, the California law preempts municipalities like San Francisco and Los Angeles from adopting their own privacy requirements for companies. The California legislature made clear it didn't want a patchwork of municipal-level privacy laws. How is this approach any different than what Congress would be pursuing if we preempt a patchwork of state laws?
Well, I think it certainly shows the need and the appreciation of having a uniform standard for all consumers in this market, and so I think that would be very consistent.
It interests me that already in California there's CCPA 2.0, again somewhat trying to combat the uncertainty, different standards, but even in California, if you were preparing for a law to be enacted to take effect next year, there's at least contemplation that that law is going to be something different already. And so even within California, not only is Los Angeles and San Francisco preempted from their own, but also there may be a different statute around the corner as well. Let me do what my colleagues have done and ask all of you for a yes or no answer. Understanding that there is stakeholder interest in establishing a uniform federal framework that consumers can count on, no matter what state they live in, it is fair to say that such a framework will need substantively strong policy and resource components included in order to provide meaningful privacy protection to consumers while also gaining necessary bipartisan support for possible enactment of federal law. Let me highlight what Senator Blumenthal said is we have bills, and I'm pleased that the ranking member and the chairman have introduced legislation, but ultimately the Senate requires 60 votes, and threading that needle to find the place. It is a conversation that I think we as senators have to have. What are we willing to accept to have something different than what we're going to have without federal legislation? So trying to find that bipartisan support, and I would commend Senator Blumenthal for his tenacity in efforts to accomplish that goal, and I have appreciated the chance to work with him, as well as Senator Wicker and Senator Cantwell and Senator Schatz and Senator Thune. That being said, do you think it would be appropriate to include the following components in a preemptive federal privacy bill? Standardizing, this is the first option, standardizing specific transparency requirements along with consumer controls and rights that will allow individuals to access, delete, or correct their personal data handled by businesses.
Yes, that would be a critical component of any strong federal privacy law.
Thank you.
Yes.
For sure, that would be included.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Providing the FTC first-time civil penalty authority.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Providing the FTC targeted rulemaking authority that will, quote, future-proof legislation without undermining the measurable certainty of the statute.
Yes, rulemaking authority will be necessary.
Yes, targeted rulemaking.
With the caveat that we may define targeted differently, yes.
Sure.
What she said.
Yes.
Thank you. Establishing new FTC authorizations for appropriations to address the resources and staffing needs of the agency.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Ms. Ollenhaus, I will
Yes.
ask you to go beyond yes, based upon your previous experience. What resources, what's the level of the nature of the change that's necessary?
So I do think the FTC needs substantially more resources. Its entire budget is only slightly over $300 million, and that's for both missions. So I think it needs the ability to hire personnel, it needs finances, the ability to have experts, and the additional powers that a statute might provide, like first-time civil penalty authority, increased authority over certain entities, and the ability to create a redress fund that can repay consumers directly and promptly. I think all those are very, very important strengthening pieces for the FTC.
Thank you. Ms. Moy?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, this is my last yes or no question. Authorizing state attorney generals to enforce the federal standards and complement the FTC's enforcement efforts.
Yes, that's very important.
Yes, and it has been something that's worked well in COPPA.
It is a critical component.
Yes, we support. Yes.
I would highlight, not that I'm looking for the burden, but I also appropriate for the FTC, in addition to authorize for the FTC. And this is an important issue, I believe, for us to work out in authorization, but as well in the appropriations process. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.